Alright, so in the previous lecture we looked at this. So for this lecture, which is the part 2 of our share basics, we'll be looking at these aspects now. So ensure you've watched the previous video before starting this one. Okay, so we want to look at some extra features as regards to wildcards. Alright, so we've talked about some of them already in the earlier video. So we'll be going forward again with small examples on this video. Alright, so let's start. So the first one here, we have the asterisk. We've talked about asterisk before. So the asterisk lists all files. Okay, so it lists out all files. So if I, for example, to do something like, I can say, well, I've actually updated more files in this place. I've added more files just so that it can be suitable for us to work on this example, so I can explain each of those concepts better. All right, so for example, now if ls is a way of listing all files normally. Okay, so I can also say ls star to also list all files. All right, also I can also say ls hash, so you can see it also lists more files. So just that this ls star can have more features than just ls star. So like if I want to specifically list any file that ends with letter n, so you can see to selectively list out only the files that end with letter n. So it has more features. We've talked about this already in the previous video, so I'm not going to enter it anymore. So let's go to the next part. So similar with a star. So a star means any file that starts with a that ends with any letter. All right, so that's just what it means there. So something like maybe ls s. So to list for me every file that starts with letter s that end with whatever letter characters. It doesn't mind how it ends, but the major thing is that it starts with letter s. So that's the focus here. All right, so it will list only that specific stuff for me. So looking at this other one, we also have another way of using the asterisk also. So this one is saying that list a file that starts with b, and in between it has any characters, but it ends with .txt. So that's the focus. So something like this starts with b, it may have any characters inside, it doesn't concern us. So what we just want that it should be a file that ends with .txt. So that's the file we're looking for. The name of the file is b and it ends with .txt, just that we can't remember the name. So we want to list selectively only this file, so we can find the particular file we're looking for. You can see these are the only files that has it. So for me, I can easily tell, okay, this is the one I'm looking for, this was the one I was looking for. So that's just the advantage of learning these wildcards. Okay, so this is just one of the application of the asterisk again. I believe you understand this concept very, very well. So moving on, we've talked about this in the earlier video about the question mark. So for example, I want to list something like words, a file that starts with letter s that has 2 words after it, or I want to find a file that starts with letter s and has 3 words inside of it. So you can see. So that is just what the question mark does. So we've done more examples on it in the earlier video too. So let's move on. So we've talked about the brackets also. Okay, so here we have the ABC, which means it will list A and whatever files that are there, and B and whatever files that are there. So something like this. If I say ls bracket ABC asterisk, but the asterisk doesn't mind the name it ends with. Okay, it doesn't mind how many characters or whatever way it ends with, in as much as the letter starts, the asterisk come after, it means this is the starting point. So A, whatever it ends with, B, whatever B ends with, and C, whatever C ends with. We can also choose to rewrite this by saying A to C. Okay, so if I click enter, you can see it brings out A to C files that starts with letter A, B, and C. Okay, so you can see these are the files there. Alright, so it doesn't matter what the file end with specifically. You can see can end with Y, can end with S, can have any number of characters inside also, can even end with .txt. So it doesn't really matter since we really specify at the end of the asterisk what it should end with. Alright, so that's how to use the bracket. So we've talked about it already in the previous video. So moving forward, so we have these few ones. We have the upper. So now what this one does is that any file name that begins with an uppercase. So for example, we want to list any file that begins with an uppercase, then we're going to use this command. Okay, so let's quickly just test it. Control L. I just want to move one page up. I don't want to erase stuff we've been doing. Okay, so something like so I'll say you have to write it in this exact format though. If I put my asterisk after, yeah, so I'm listing any list of files that starts with a capital letter for me. So these are the only files that started with capital letter. You can see capital letter S. Okay, so those are the only files I have, and those are the stuff. This is where I want to find a file that I'm looking for. So just the same way with this upper, you can do it with lower also. Just for you to change this upper right up, this text upper to lower, so it will list the lower parts for you also. All right. Also you can choose to put this upper after the asterisk. That means you are specifying the aspect of the ending. Let me explain what I'm saying. So if I do something like this, upper, this time around I chose to start it with the asterisk. That means what I'm saying is that it should end whatever file I'm looking for can start with whatever alphabet. It doesn't concern me, or even whatever number. Just that since it is after the asterisk, that means the ending of whatever files I want to list out should end in a capital letter. That's what I'm trying to say here. So to end in an uppercase. So if I click enter, I can see these are the only files that ends with uppercase. You can see capital letter C, capital letter B at the end, capital letter T at the end. So these are the files it lists out for me. Alright, so just play around all this stuff to really get to flow with it very well. So we have also this one. So just like the lower, but this time around there's this symbol, exclamation symbol, which means like the opposite, which means like not. So try to say like not lower. Okay, so now this is trying to say that we should look for any file that does not end with lowercase. Remember, if we remove this, it will list out files that ends with lowercase. But if we then put this exclamation, it means that does not end with lowercase, which means the opposite of it is saying that end with uppercase, which means this same file, this same stuff we wrote here, is the same thing as writing something like this. So it's the same thing as writing this. That's what it literally means. Okay, since it says any file that does not end with a lowercase, that means the file should end with an uppercase, right? And although it's not really necessarily equal, there's a glitch to it, because some files you can end with a number. You understand? So let's just remove this, because since they say it should not end in lowercase, any file can end with a digit also. All right. So let's not limit ourselves with just the opposite, which is the alphabetical part. Or probably let's just particularize it ourselves and see. I don't think I create any file that ends with a number. Let me just quickly do that. File whatever number. Okay, at least I have one now that has number. So let's try it. So if I say ls asterisk not lower, so you can see good. You can see it lists also the one that has numbers. Also, then lists the one that ends with capital letter, which is like the opposite of the lower letter. Okay, so good. So that's just what I was trying to explain there. So the same thing goes for the digits also. This symbol means not digit. So any file that does not begin with a numeral. So this time around, listing files that does not start with a number. So that means if you want to list a file that starts with a number, you just need to remove the exclamation mark and to list out files that start with a number. If you put the not, that means to list out file that does not start with a number. Alright. So let's just visualize it also. Let me start with file that starts with a number, so I'll just write digits. I think I have some files. No such file. Okay, I didn't create file that starts with a number. Wow. Okay, but I think you get the gist though. I believe you understand what I'm trying to say. Or let me just create a quick one. So this one starts with a number now. So let's do it again. So ls digits. Okay. Okay, so in short, I even have self. Okay, I forgot to even put the asterisk after this part. That was why. So I already have files that begin with numbers already. Okay, good. So that's just what it does. So if when you are saying if you put in notes, so it will bring out file that does not start with a number. That means to bring out file that starts with even uppercase and lowercase, it doesn't really matter. In as much as the file is not a number. So let's see how that one, what the output will give us for that aspect. So not a digit. So the file should not start with a digit at all. It can start with anything aside a digit. Okay, so I take asterisk, which means it can end in any format of name that it has there. So you can see neither of them here starts with a number, but they start with alphabet. So this one starts with capital letter S, some start with small letter, doesn't really matter. Okay, they didn't specify whether I should use the upper or lower case. Its focus is that the files that we list should not be any number, should not start with any numeral at the beginning, which is what is showing us here. Right, so that is it about that. And lastly, okay, I think we know this already again, A to D. So we're saying A and whatever value that ends after it. Okay, let me just quickly do it. I believe we already know it, but let me just do it. So ls A to D, you can say, so it will bring out A and the whatever question mark. Remember, since we put one question mark, that's why we're having one word after it. So it's sent with the B and the C and the D. So for example, if I do something like X, let me add extra. So A to D question mark. That means I will have two characters after that first letter in this our brackets here. So you can see A, it has DJ, A, it has ND, A, it has XE, B, it has DS. Alright, so that's the two question mark here. So it has two characters or two letters. That's the word that has two letters after each of these words between A to D. Alright, so that's just what it means there. Lastly, we have A question F, where we already know this already in the previous video. So I think that's just a round up about all of this. Alright, so I think we will see. I'll still explain some more added features probably later in the next video. So we'll look at some extra feature. And just so you know, let me just quickly say this quick one. Just so you know that it's not safe this wildcards only apply to ls, can also apply to rm. Okay, that whereby you want to remove a specific stuff. Okay, so if you want to remove a specific character now if I choose to say I want to remove any letter that starts with A to D and has one character after, so I can say I want to remove A to D like this question mark. So that means all this stuff we were seeing here, we won't see it here anymore. So it has removed like that. So instead of us doing it one by one or trying to do like this RM, AZ, BE to remove everything once, it's like maybe stress. It depends how much they are. So you can easily use this wildcard to make it shorter for you to do it. So just so that you can also use LS, you can use RM, you can also move too. So you can easily move some files too easily using this format. Okay, let's quickly move one file. So if I say I want to move, let me use this last one, this AD question mark, these two question mark here. So I want to move any file that looks like this. I want to move them inside this new directory. Remember, we have new directory within our dev.plus. So here's the name of the directory, new dir. So I want to move all files that start with letter A, B, C, D, and ends with two characters or numbers or whatever after it. Okay, so I want to move all of them inside new directory. So now if I do ls, let me enter inside the new directory. So let's check if it's inside here. ls, and see those things are inside here. All right, so let me just move it back though. You can see it makes the moving very fast than me doing it individually and moving them one by one. So I'm to move it back to dev.plus. In short, for this to happen, I will need to put the directory of it. So that will be the root, the home, Lexis code, dev.plus. So I think we are good like this. Is not a directory. So let me confirm something. Though I didn't spell the Lexis code well. Let me do it again. How mv a to the question mark again from the root to our home Lexis code. Okay, I spell it well now. So dev dot plus. So that's the last directory. I can choose to put a last forward slash here, or you can choose to ignore it. So I just click enter, so it has moved back there. So if I do ls in this new directory, we won't see it anymore. So it has gone to our dev.plus back. So if I list it here, I should see it here. So that is sure. Let's find it if you can easily find it like this. You can see the stress of even finding it here. So I think I've seen one of them Axe, I've seen Axe here, I've seen BDS. So you can see the stress of finding it here. That's why we need to be learning how to use wildcards to make finding of things easier for us. So you can selectively list out things. Okay, so these are the files, they are inside our dev.plus back. So that's just it about this aspect. I hope you understand. Thank you. Bye.